Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I like books a lot, and my favorite place to spend a weekend afternoon was the bookstore near my apartment. The shelves had all kinds of genres, from classics to indie novels. I enjoy browsing for hours, finding new authors, and talking with other book lovers. One Saturday, I went to the bookstore wearing a plain red t-shirt and jeans. While reading the back cover of a mystery novel, I felt a tap on my shoulder. A woman asked if I could help her find a book for her book club. She needed to bring a suggestion for their meeting next week. I looked at my red t-shirt, realizing it matched the bookstore employees' uniforms. I smiled at the mix-up. I told her I didn't work there but offered to help pick out a book anyway. I asked what kind of books her club liked. The woman told me her book club liked contemporary fiction with strong female characters and interesting themes. I knew many books that would work. We walked through the fiction section and I showed her some of my favorites. I told her about their plots and why I thought they'd be good for her book club. The woman listened, her eyes lighting up at each title. After thinking about it, she picked a novel that had really affected me last year. She thanked me a lot for helping. She was surprised I didn't work at the bookstore and said I knew so much about books that I should think about getting a job in a bookstore. I laughed and thanked her. I told her I was just someone who loved books and was happy to help others find good reads. As we went our separate ways, I felt satisfied. I might not have been a bookstore worker, but I had shared my love of books with someone who valued it. I thought it was over, but this small moment led to one of the strangest encounters of my life. The next weekend, I went back to the bookstore again wearing a red t-shirt. It wasn't on purpose, red was just a color I wore often. I was in the science fiction section, reading the first chapter of a new book, when I heard a sharp voice. A middle-aged woman with an expensive handbag and that haircut, known for entitled behavior online, came up to me. I'll call her Karen, since she fit the stereotype perfectly. She looked at me, tapping her foot on the floor. She complained about finally finding someone to help her after looking everywhere, and said the store was understaffed. I looked up from my book and told her I didn't work there. Karen dismissed what I said. She pointed out I was wearing the uniform. She then demanded I find her a book that was on Morning America last week. She couldn't remember the title or author, but said it had a blue cover. I tried to stay polite despite her rudeness. I told her again that I really didn't work there. I explained that employees wore red shirts, but they also had name tags and the store logo, which I didn't have. She looked me up and down. She rudely suggested I should wear something else because it was misleading. She insisted that since I was there, I could still help find the book. She repeated her vague description, blue cover, unpopular, then told me to hurry up. I was shocked by how rude she was. She had snapped her fingers at me. I said again that I didn't work there and couldn't help find a book when all she knew was the color. I suggested she ask at the information desk and pointed to the front where real employees were helping customers. Karen got angry. She accused me of being rude and demanded to speak to my manager. I emphasized each word as I explained again that I didn't have a manager because I didn't work there. I was just a customer, like her. She called me a liar and said she saw me helping another woman last week. This surprised me. She had seen my interaction with a book club woman and decided that meant I worked there. I explained I was just being nice to another customer and people could help each other without getting paid. This made her angrier. She called me names and accused me of trying to avoid work. She said she wouldn't accept this and asked where the manager's office was. Without waiting for an answer, she walked toward the back of the store. I wondered if I should follow or keep browsing, but I was curious. I put the book back on the shelf and followed her from a distance. She went to a small office between the restrooms and break room and banged on the door. A man in his late 30s with glasses and a proper red shirt with a name tag opened it. Karen told him she needed to report an employee for bad customer service. The manager asked which employee she meant. She turned around looking through the store until she saw me. She pointed at me saying I was the employee in the red shirt who refused to help her and was very rude. The manager looked at me. confused at first. Then he understood and almost smiled. He politely told Karen that I didn't work for the bookstore and was just a customer. Karen said that was ridiculous and mentioned seeing me help another customer last week. She accused me of trying to avoid work and lying about my job. The manager sighed, clearly used to difficult customers. He assured her I wasn't on their payroll. He explained they only had 5 employees, all of whom he knew personally. He then offered to help her find the book himself, but Karen wouldn't let it go. She said the situation was unacceptable. She argued either I worked there and was lying, or the manager had no control over what people wore in his store, which confused customers. Either way, she called it bad management. By now, several other customers were watching. I felt embarrassed even though I hadn't done anything wrong. The manager was losing patience but stayed professional. He explained they couldn't control what colors customers wore and pointed out that red was a common color. He then asked if she wanted help finding a book or if she would prefer to continue the talk outside. Karen got upset and asked if he was threatening to throw her out. She claimed she spent thousands of dollars at the store every year. The manager looked at his computer and asked if she had a rewards card. She said no, she didn't carry those because they were just ways to collect personal data. The manager said without a card, they had no record of her purchases. He tried again to talk about her blue-covered book from Morning America. I admired his attempt to change the subject, but Karen wasn't interested. She said the whole thing was ridiculous and threatened to call the corporate office about both of us. She searched in her purse for her phone and the manager came over to me quietly. He apologized for the situation and asked if I wanted to keep shopping or use their back exit. I told him it was fine and I would just go out the front door. I said not to worry about it. I started walking to the exit, but Karen shouted at me to stop and not leave while she was filing a complaint about me. That was too much. I had been polite and patient, but this was ridiculous. I told her I had repeatedly said I didn't work there. I pointed out all the evidence, my plain red t-shirt with no logo or name tag, my backpack instead of stocking shelves, or working at the register and reading a book for fun, not checking inventory. I asked what more proof she needed that I was just a customer who liked books. Karen asked why I helped a woman last week if I didn't work there. I said it was because I was a decent person who knew about books, and when someone asks for a suggestion, it's nice to share thoughts. I added that not everything is a transaction. She didn't like this. She told me not to talk to her about decency and said I had been rude since she first came up to me. Then another customer stepped in. She was an elderly woman who had been looking at mystery books nearby. She said she had been listening to everything and thought Karen was the rude one. She defended me, saying I had been very patient and clearly didn't work there. She said Karen was making a scene over nothing. Karen was shocked that someone else had joined in. She opened and closed her mouth several times. Then she told the elderly woman this wasn't her business and to stay out of it. The elderly woman replied that when someone shouts loud enough for the whole store to hear, they make it everyone's business. Now several other customers were nodding in agreement. The manager took this chance to take control. He asked Karen to lower her voice or leave, as she was disturbing other customers. Karen said angrily that she would never shop there again and they had lost a valuable customer. She walked toward the exit but bumped into a display table and knocked several books to the floor. She didn't stop to pick them up. After she left, there was an awkward silence before everyone went back to their activities. The manager came over to me again and apologized for the incident. He said some people just won't listen to reason. I told him it wasn't his fault. I was surprised Karen remembered seeing me help someone last week, noting how ironic it was that she had such selective memory when she couldn't remember anything about the book she wanted. The manager laughed and offered me a discount on books that day for my trouble. I said that wasn't necessary since I hadn't done anything special. He joked that if I ever wanted a job, they could use someone with my patience and knowledge of books. I smiled at the irony and thanked him, saying I would keep that in mind. As I kept browsing, the elderly woman who had stood up for me came over. She advised me not to let people like Karen bother me and said some people just want to be angry at the world. I thanked her for stepping in and told her it was very kind. She dismissed my thanks and said she had seen too many entitled people get away with that behavior because everyone was afraid to speak up. She added that at her age, she didn't have patience for it anymore. She winked at me and went back to browsing. I bought 3 books that day, including the one I was reading when Karen interrupted me. When I was checking out, the cashier smiled and suggested I might want to avoid wearing red next time I came in. We both laughed, and I promised to wear blue instead. So this just happened on my lunch break. I drove to the other side of town to cash in my scratcher ticket. When I say other side of town, I mean across that invisible border that separates areas that can sell scratchers and areas that can't. You know how, on tribal grounds, they don't sell scratchers or lottery tickets at convenience stores? Yeah, that kind of border. I decided to drive to this place because I wanted a soda and some snacks. You know, a healthy lunch for a teacher, and I usually don't go here unless I want or need lottery tickets. It's a cool looking little mom and pop place, but the second I stepped in, the cashier just gave me this icy stare for some reason. A little background about me. I have 3 of my 5 children on the autism Asperger's spectrum, and though I myself was never diagnosed as a child, I guarantee that I have similar tendencies. I have a feeling that my lack of proper eye contact might have something to do with the cashier's high noon stare, a realization that came to me the second I typed this. When I was walking into the place, I thought about cashing the scratcher, $5 yay, right away, but decided I'd wait until I got my stuff and then cash it at the same time. In this indecisiveness, I found myself fumbling around in my pockets, feeling to make sure I had my car keys. It's a nervous habit that I have. I probably check once every 15 minutes, whether I'm at home, on the road, or sometimes even sleeping. I can't tell you how many times I checked my pockets, but I can tell you that someone staring at me increases the frequency. I picked my items mentally, but yet again checked my pockets to see if I had enough change, plus the $5 to pay for the items. It felt like I had enough, and I wanted to use this as a math problem for my students. If I had 17 coins, only dimes and quarters, and it was a total of $3.05, how many of each coin did I have as I returned even? I'm deep in thought about this problem when I hear yelling or something that sounds like blah blah blah, police. Love you like a father, John Mulaney. I look up and see a lady right in my face. Oh heck, I'd be horrible in a bank robbery. Repeating herself. She was demanding that I empty my pockets or she would call the police, strangely emphasizing the end syllable of police. It was funny, and I laughed as I started to comply. At the same moment, she took her gnarly little smoky fingers and dug her nails into my arm. She had to reach up. I'm 6'3", she's not. I consider my pain threshold pretty good, but this woman was hurting me, trying to drag me somewhere. I just went along with her, telling her to calm down as I pulled away from her grasp. She yelled at me again, demanding once more that I empty my pockets. Then she shouted to some empty air, telling someone to call the police. Time for malicious compliance as quick as I can manage. I took this moment to think to myself, oh heck, I better empty my pockets right now before this gets out of hand. It was already way out of hand. It just took me a beat to realize. I quickly started emptying my pockets, which had 32 pieces of a ripped up scratcher, 3 receipts, 2 of which showed me my hours at my second job. 1 was to a car wash or something, my wallet, a straw wrapper, and with everything I took out of my pockets, I smacked it on her checkout area individually. I started loudly pointing out that each item wasn't her property, emphasizing each point by slapping the items down on the counter. When I got through almost everything, I skipped a few with the scratcher pieces and finally ended with a scratcher I was going to cash in there. I realized that I was acting out of anger and physical pain and should probably take it down a notch. I took this opportunity to enjoy placing an assortment of ripped up papers upon a counter. Her entire counter was covered in garbage, mixed with about 5% of the surface area representing stuff I actually needed. I'm a chipmunk, what can I say? Now she's got a mess to clean up, but that's just the beginning. I then started emptying my shirt pocket, which had my teacher ID, my pens, my whiteboard marker. Yes, I keep all this in my shirt pocket, and yes, I wear a button-up chap shirt over my jeans. I then put my arms spread out as if to say, Would you like to check anywhere else? I'm clean. She just kept shaking her head at me, shaking her head to someone off in the distance, and then the cops rolled up. I can't believe she actually called, or had someone call, the police. When the car pulled up, I just couldn't explain to you how glorious this was, because both the lady and I had grins on our faces. Her, because she thought I was done for, and she told me that now they would really search me. And me, because it's none other than my school resource officer who just happened to get the call somehow. I was bleeding through my shirt, and I could feel it. I don't know how this was even possible, and if I read someone write this, I wouldn't believe it, but swear to God, she broke the skin through my polo shirt. What in the actual? Anyway, the officer walks in, and I was about to let on that I knew him by addressing him by name. Thank God I didn't, because not a good look, but he beat me to the punch. He jokingly asked if I was holding up another liquor store, with that smile he always has. I told him that I had emptied my pockets and he was welcome to search me, but I couldn't finish my sentence. He told me that wouldn't be necessary since he could see my pockets were empty. He started rattling off questions about whether she had watched me empty my pockets and if there was a camera. The sun was beaming through his glasses from the opposite side, offering a ray of hope. Then he turned to the lady and asked if he could ask her a few questions. When he turned back to me, he was about to tell me something when he noticed my arm. He asked how that had happened. I thought to myself that he might want to check the camera for that one too, but I just looked directly at the lady. He then turned to the lady and told her to follow him, had her walk to the outside of the store, when immediately a kid came running out to her defense with a steady stream of energy drinks clunking behind. The officer turned toward him and had him sit down next to his mom on the curb outside. By this time, a second police car had arrived at the scene, had an exchange with the first officer, and he spoke with the mom while the new officer came to talk with me. She asked me the questions like when I got there, whether I'd been there earlier in the day, I hadn't, if I knew her or the son before today, etc. I guess thinking about it, it wasn't exactly a streamlined series of questions, but whatever. The truth is like a gym surrounded by muddy crap. Karen realized she was the one about to go with the police instead of me. I saw her sitting in the back of the squad car. She was shaking her head, flailing about, and she had tears flowing down her face. But wait, the story doesn't end there. When I was collecting my stuff from the counter, what a mess. The actual store owner came out from the back. Turns out he had seen the whole thing on the security cameras, but was on the phone with someone and couldn't come out right away. The store owner told me that this woman had been causing problems all week, accusing customers of stealing, and said that she wasn't even an employee there. I asked why she was behind the counter if she didn't work there. He told me that she wasn't supposed to be there at all. Her son worked at the store part-time and she sometimes came in thinking she could run the place. The real cashier had just gone to the bathroom and she must have jumped behind the counter when she saw me come in. This random Karen had appointed herself as a store security guard and was physically assaulting customers she thought suspicious. The officers were surprised. The officer asked if I wanted to press charges for assault. At first, I wasn't sure. I mean, I'm just a teacher trying to cash in a $5 scratcher ticket on my lunch break. But then I looked down at my arm, which was now starting to bruise, and had scratch marks that had drawn blood, and I thought about my students waiting for me back at school. I decided that, yes, I did want to press charges, saying that this couldn't happen to anyone else. The owner offered to provide the security footage to the police. When they were finishing up getting my statement, I checked my watch and realized I was going to be late getting back to school. I quickly called the front office to let them know I'd be a few minutes late from lunch due to an unexpected situation. They told me that they would cover my class and told me to take my time. The officers let me go after I signed my statement, saying they'd be in touch. The store owner insisted I take my soda and snacks for free and even cashed in my scratcher ticket. I thanked him but said he didn't have to do that, but he insisted, saying he was sorry that this happened in his store. When I was leaving, I saw Karen still in the back of the police car, now shouting something I couldn't hear through the window. Her son sat on the curb watching as his mom was about to get a ride to the station. The officer who had been questioning me walked up one last time. The officer told me that they had found this wasn't the first time she had done this at other stores, and that my report would help ensure it didn't happen again. I just said that all I had wanted was a soda and to cash in my winning ticket. The officer said that it looked like I had won more than $5 today. I had won against a bully. I got back in my car, my arm throbbing, but my spirit lifted. I checked my pockets again. Yep, keys still there, and headed back to school. I couldn't wait to tell my coworkers about this during our next break. And you know what? I decided to keep those 32 pieces of ripped up scratcher as a souvenir. That math problem, by the way, 7 quarters and 10 dimes equals $3.05. I think I'll use this in class tomorrow, but maybe I'll leave out the part about the crazy lady who thought I was stealing when I was just doing mental math. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.